everyone, this is mgod here. I have a small village dispenser design here, and I've built this to be an extremely compact breeding and dispensing setup, unlike most of the other designs that I've seen that are either very extensive or have a lot of villagers wandering around or can add a lot of lag to your server. So first we have, this is a little modified Tango Tech villager breeder. I'll attach a link to see his design for it. But I've got a little village tucked under there, some doors and a villager, and then villagers breed here, and the baby villagers get pushed into this little holding cell. When they mature, their head will pop up into the water, and they will get pushed over into my next little holding spot here. And from here, we can push a button to dispense a single villager, who will come right over here. We can check out the villager, see if we want to keep him, and if we set this to life, he'll shoot out the side here, and we can tuck him in some market or something similar. And if we want to leave it on death, which we're going to go ahead and do here, when we push the button, he'll go over, the minecart gets sent back to the villager dispenser, and then we drop him in a little bucket of lava there. So I'm going to give a quick demo on this in 3 different parts. So first I'll talk about building this micro villager breeder, then I'll talk about the dispenser design, and then I'll show you how to build this little life or death picker. Alright, so our first step here is to build the village breeder. And again, this is based on Tango Tech's design, and I've just modified it a little bit for this scenario. So the first thing to do is to dig a hole 5 deep. And then I know that he does this with only 6 doors. For some reason I have trouble with that, so I do 12 just to be sure. So we're building a little room too high that we can get 3 doors deep in. So go ahead and put these doors in. Doesn't really matter how these doors are oriented or anything like that. As long as you have this 4 wide hole and they're laid out in a grid like this. So we're just going to ignore that here. And then we will go ahead and put a villager in there. This is so that it gets detected as a valid village for our breeding system. And then I'm just going to throw a couple torches in there just to make sure he always has a light. I don't really want monsters breeding in there, and then we'll cover it up with glass to protect him. Alright, so we've got our village, and the center of the village is about there. It's actually on the edge of this block, and it's down 5 blocks. So we want to build our village breeding station within range of this village so they breed, but far enough away that the minecart dispenser for villagers will not be, they won't breed there. So we're going to count 10 blocks off this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And on the 11th block, we'll put a little spot of glass, and this is going to be the beginning of our Tango Tech villager breeder. So this is the basic L-shaped footprint he has. I'll go ahead and stick that in here and make it too high all the way around. Alright, so and we'll stick our 2 villagers in here. This will be the spot that they breed at. So that's the first phase here, is getting the villagers within range of that village and all set up here. So the next thing to do here is to put together our redstone circuitry to push baby villagers into the little breeding pin. So we're going to put a sticky piston facing into that block, and we're also going to put a sticky piston, we actually need to have it facing this way. And so what we'll want to do is we'll want to have this sticky piston, go ahead and put a block there and a torch that'll extend it there, and then put another block 2 out from that, and we'll put a torch here. Don't connect it quite yet, and we'll put a drop of redstone and a repeater. The repeater needs to be on 4 ticks here. Make sure that is off before you do this next step, or your villagers will get a little confused. So what will happen here is we'll send a pulse into this block, and that will turn this torch off, which will retract this piston. You'll see this piston has a little bit of glass here that seals off this area. And then when this torch goes off 4 ticks later, this torch will go on and this block will extend. So this little block will push the baby villagers into this square here, because remember that one will be pulled back, and then this one will extend again and push the baby villagers into this square. I don't know why there's a piece of glass there. All right, so now we need to send a pulse into here. So go ahead and stick a repeater again on 4 ticks into that. We're just making a little short circuit here, or a fuse breaker. So got a sticky piston facing up with a block on top of it, and then a daylight sensor here. So you can see there that pulse just went off and sent stuff through our system. But we only want this to happen at noon, or a little bit before noon actually. So if we, oh yeah, we're in the middle of the day. So do 4 spots of redstone. It doesn't really matter how this is organized. I'm just playing this so that it's convenient for me for the next step of the design, but you need to have at least 4 spots of redstone between the torch and the repeater here, or I'm sorry, the comparator. Otherwise, this system won't go when it's cloudy out. This is basically the whole thing. This is again Tango Tech's design. I've just flattened it out and put it on its side, just a little more convenient for how I'm setting this up. Okay, so we're going to have our little baby villagers in here, and we want to move them over. So build a little upside down L shape there, and then go up 2, building a little T here. Basically going to run some water across the top there and drop the villagers into a little storage spot here. And we're giving it just enough room that we can build our next component. So now we're going to build an enclosure here to keep them from getting out. Let's get this set up with water. So we want a sign on that block there. That'll keep the baby villagers out of the water at the bottom here. And then go ahead and put a sign on this block here to keep the water from flowing down into there. And then we're just gonna put water source blocks in a column there, and it'll flow down nicely. So when villagers get up there, they'll flow all the way down and get pushed into this final block here. And then here's where we will build the actual dispenser. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is build our minecart dispensing infrastructure here. So see this T here, come out 2 blocks and dig down 1, like that. So we have a little L shape, and then in these 3, make another smaller L shape. Then we have a dispenser here. We want the dispenser facing up, right on that square. That'll be dispensing the mine carts for our villagers. And then we want a redstone repeater down here. Oops. Okay, let's just get rid of that. And again, this is on 4 ticks. And do redstone into this block. Put a torch on top of that. And then we'll just put a block of sandstone directly on top of that, because we need this to power that piston. Okay. And then put a block under there, block here for that piston, and then finish covering up this redstone circuit. So we just have this powered piston. That'll be powered whenever the dispenser block gets powered. All right, so the next piece of our dispenser here, dig 2 deep here, and we want to go out 7 blocks, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And on this 7th block, dig 2 down on the left here and 1 more divot there. Go ahead and put 1 divot here. And come up and break that block. And then on this side, break that. And that's sort of the understructure for our next section. Now you can extend this, this little bit here, you can make it longer if you want your village check-in station to be farther away from your dispenser. But just do it that far for now. And then redstone all along the bottom here, directly into that block, which we're going to be powering to turn on the dispenser. And then the other thing we want to do is put in hoppers. Make sure you're holding down shift here so that they're pointed back towards the dispenser. This will be where we collect carts to send them back to the initial station. Alright, and now that we have that in place, and we've got our ground set up here, go ahead and grab some powered rail. Oops. Put 2 powered rail out that way and 2 powered rail out this way. Now the reason we have this piston here is this square right here with the dispenser is going to be full of villagers, and that restricts the movement of the minecart. Normally if you have powered minecart, which let's go ahead and power both of these little sections here. When you put a cart on it, when it's got a solid block on one side, it'll push straight off in the opposite direction. For whatever reason, villagers interfere with it enough that sometimes it tries to go the other way, which is why this is on a piston. So what will happen is we'll send a signal on this little redstone, which will dispense a cart here, which most of the time will shoot out this way, but occasionally will get stuck trying to go back into that block, and then the repeater under here will turn on and unpower this block, retracting this piston, giving the cart a chance to go into this square, and then when the piston extends again, it'll push the cart onto this other powered rail, and then we just send both of these off this way. So that we can collect the villagers. Now, this is going to be a little section of powered rail, so we want to put a torch under here to turn it on, and then we do powered rails. Yeah, that's on there, going up the side here, and then a block of unpowered rail and 2 more powered rail going here. We'll talk about this a little bit more in a second. And the reason I wanted that there is to make sure that this end of the track goes up and then feed this other section of track into that. So that's the basic setup for the cart dispenser. And if we go back in here, we want to replace, I got rid of these 2 glass blocks while I was building it here, and stick those back in there. So that's the basic design right there. Alright, so if you're just joining us now, we have our little breeding station over there that feeds villagers into our dispenser, and then can push this button here to dispense a minecart, which will bring our villager up here. And then we get to decide what we want to do with our villager. So the next thing we want to put together is just the ground plan for our little villager station. I'm just setting this up so that we can easily get rid of villagers we want, and then send villagers we want to keep off to some useful place that you can figure out on your own. So at the end of this track here, just next to it, put a block of sandstone, or whatever you're using, it doesn't really matter, and then count out 2 and put another block there. And then come over here, we've got these 2 little divots, and knock out the 3 next to them, and put an extra divot right there. And then around that extra hole, mark out a little L shape and get rid of this last block here. The other side of this L, right here, get rid of that block, and between the 2 up here, place another sandstone. So that's our basic layout here. So the next thing we want to do is set up our, right here is going to be our station for killing villagers and collecting the minecarts from them. So first thing we want to do is put a spot of cactus in here. This will help destroy minecarts as they come back here. And then on this first square here, stick a comparator facing into this block. On the other side of this block, put a redstone torch, which will power a sticky piston. Sticky piston, oops, faces this way into this square. Now in this square, we're going to stick a little bit of lava, and I actually like to use glass over here just so I can see what's going on here. So what we'll do is push villagers we don't want into this little square of lava, but we'll cover it up the rest of the time just to keep ourselves safe. So with these other spaces, remember to hold down Shift again so these hoppers go in towards the dispenser. And then we want one more hopper right there next to the cactus. So finally, to get this set up, put a single powered rail there next to a regular rail, and then two regular rail on top of these hoppers. So the cart will get pushed into this little segment of cactus. All right, so next, take a comparator, come out of this hopper, and then sticky piston, repeater on 4 clicks coming out that way, repeater on 4 clicks here, a little bit of redstone to connect those together, and then on top of this block we want a sticky piston. And now take some glass and we're going to build a little enclosure here. The goal is to keep the villager in one spot after the minecart goes away, so the villager will go under this piece of glass with the minecart, and then when the minecart gets destroyed, they'll be stuck here on these 2 squares. So if we finish the enclosure, we go like that. And then the minecart will get collected, and it will first power this sticky piston, pushing the villager over this square, and then it'll unpower this sticky piston, revealing the lava. So now we can watch this in action. Oh, I've just realized I forgot to power this little bit of track. So otherwise you'd get stuck there. Now we can run this. He goes there, and then it pushes the villager into that square when the minecart gets collected. And then the minecart will have made it back there, so if we push this button again, we'll get another minecart out. We didn't have a villager that time. So that's the end of the station for killing villagers. Right, so the last thing we want to do is be able to hang on to villagers we want to keep. So put in 2, oops, this is 1 too close. I'll put it one more farther out here. So anyways, put 2 powered rail in. Those will get powered by this same torch here, which is nice and convenient. And then put some unpowered rail, and then that can go wherever you want to take this villager. And then put a chunk of glass over there. So again, the cart can go through this and can go uphill from one side, but it won't be able to come back. There's nothing like wanting to save a villager and having him come back and you discovering that he'll go right directly in your death trap and die. So we want to be able to pick which way these go. So the lever is up, he'll go to this side. We can see this, push the button right now, cart goes shooting off the edge there. So the top here is towards life, and the bottom here is towards death. And we can then choose which way this lever goes. So that's pretty much it. So this bit is completely optional, but I find it very helpful. We're going to add a villager and minecart detector to the system. So go ahead and do 2 sandstone, get rid of that one on the bottom, and then come out here and do 2 sandstone here. Again, get rid of the one on the bottom. And we'll put tripwire hooks on those 2 chunks of sandstone. Hook those up in a sec, and then dig a little trough here, and we're going to stick a comparator down there coming off this dispenser. So if we look in the dispenser right now, you can see that I've got 9 in there, so the comparator will be on. And then we'll put some redstone along here into a block with a redstone lamp on it. And then we'll go ahead and cover up this with glass. Ooh, come on, there we go. And then we'll hook up these tripwire hooks. So now the tripwire hooks will go off if there's anything occluding them, so we'll just run some redstone out from under and into that block. And now we can just wait for a little bit until this system generates a villager, and that redstone light will come on. All right, we've got our first guy tucked in there, and as you can see, we finally have this light on, and we're about to have another guy in there. Sometimes it takes them a while to give up trying to go towards the village. They just really, really like the village. All right, and we get a guy out. We can take a look at him and send him on his way, or not. I will attach a link to this world file in the comments for this video, and good luck getting your village dispensers put together.